I guess you want the whole spiel of like the whole, I guess, intro
Spiel me,
resume.
spiel me. Imagine, so
Spiel.
spiel me as if I just raided your stream and you know, spiel me.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, hit
So
me.
total variety streamer, playing a lot of horror, playing a lot of RPGs. Originally from the US, moved to Ireland for a while, then moved to Korea. I just been like world hopping at this point. So now I'm here for a while.
Well, thank you very much for that raid announcement, or that raid response. So
I never know what to say during raids half the time. I just say like the same thing over and over, and I've just rehearsed it. It's just like, yeah, sorry, that's good. That's what we'll do.
well, yeah, and if you get a couple of raids in a day, a couple of raids in a stream, then you catch yourself saying the same shit. But it's like, I always get caught between, I don't want to sound like I'm taking it for granted. Like, yeah, welcome in Raiders, it's great, we're playing games, I'm a variety streamer, yeah, smash that like button. But at the same time, I don't want to give this spiel that sounds like overly phony baloney. Yeah. And so it's like, I never really liked, one of the things I struggle the most with is advertising myself, selling myself as a product.
Same, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, I don't even know. I don't know. Like social media's never been my thing at all. Like I've got my YouTube, but that's just for me to watch things. I actually did create a YouTube channel for my Twitch, which I was going to put VODs on there. And just, I thought to myself, like, I don't want to edit. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to put these here. This is too much work for me. And then like Facebook, I'm off of that. Twitter, I only have that just to view stuff. Like, I have no idea how to actually use any of this stuff to, I guess, promote or do whatever that you need to do nowadays.
That's really interesting, and I think that's something. It's a way in which we put ourselves at a slight disadvantage to people who are really in on that game. You know, I think people use Twitter for it. Probably Instagram for it. They probably all the tendrils that they have in whatever things they have. But I'm really similar. I've got Twitch, YouTube, Discord, and there is a Facebook account, but I
don't use mine.
Yeah, it exists.
At this point.
Yeah, it exists. I use Messenger, so I guess I am logged into Facebook, but it's just like Messenger Lite on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you like break up with social media? Did the romance end, or was it something you were never into?
I think I'm what, 31, almost 32. So I kind of grew up in that weird transitional stage before the internet was really a thing. And then slowly as like, I guess, websites and this whole like online, whatever you want to call it, like just communities start developing afterwards. When you got your Facebooks, you got your Twitter, YouTube was like brand new when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So like kind of grew up with it, but just never, it was never something that was so commercial.
Yeah.
At that point, it was still very the Wild West. Like YouTube was like people just kind of talking at the camera and like maybe telling about what they did. They're just doing kind of video diaries or just filming random little bits and pieces and uploading a minute worth of content. And just like I was never, I guess, in that space around the time when I guess that became like, oh, this is an actual cool marketing thing now. You can actually do stuff with and reach a ton of people. Like this is the way forward for advertising. I guess I just never viewed it as that. It was more just kind of maybe creative and communicational rather than like a monetary type of avenue in a way.
It's really interesting. You know, if you go back to videos from 2012,
I love them so much.
they're so different. They're so like my shit compared to most stuff. My shit looks pretty budget, pretty like low spec. But if it was 2012, it would be blowing that shit out of the water because that shit is like 360p. There's no like, there's no curated intro to it. There's
No, like, video
it's
production, it was just, like, whatever you had. You had your little Sony, like, what are the I forget what brand I had, but it's like a Sony little snap cam type of thing, and just like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna shoot it on here. I don't care about composition, I don't care about the sound, I'm just gonna throw it up on the internet, and there it goes."
yeah, there was
It was so
less,
experimental back in the day.
yeah, more experimental, the Wild West, less money in it, less
Mhm,
competition.
mhm.
It was less official. I guess that's interesting as well because maybe that's sort of Twitch is still kind of in that realm to an extent. Would you say?
I would think so. I think it's more specialized because
Mm.
like the Let's Play scene had been a huge thing on YouTube for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
it's still, in a way, it kind of
I'm
is.
trying to bring it back.
Um, yeah, no, seriously, no, I love your what were you playing? It was Heavy Rain and now Deadly Premonition. Now is the one you're doing now, right?
Speaking of promoting yourself, see what I just did there?
Mhm. There you
It's
go, there you
become
go.
second nature.
Oh, oh, there you go. Smart
Hey,
thinking.
hey,
But no, no, I love watching Let's Plays. Like
me too.
those were my bread and butter, like kind of I guess through my college years and stuff like that. And so like those were a very niche thing on YouTube. That
Mm,
wasn't really what YouTube was about. And then Twitch kind of came along and said like, okay, well, let's just focus on video games, and now it's
yeah,
just live streamed, so it's not necessarily you have to, I guess, buy a ton of server space because these vods are gone after what, a month now, but
yeah,
probably back in the day it was quicker than that. So it's constantly being like shuffled around, so it's not as intensive as startup, I guess. I don't know, I'm not sure how like Twitch came about, but that's just my general idea of it.
that makes sense
um
though. That makes sense that they don't have to store as much stuff. Which has always kind of been a bane of mine that the VODs don't
mhm,
last. Sometimes I forget to export them because I try to export them all
yeah.
just in case. I don't upload
Mhm.
most of them. But what kind of Let's Plays were you interested in watching back in the days?
Oh my goodness. Let me think. I think it was a lot of new games at the time.
Mm,
Because again, being a broke college student, especially if you only have like not a gaming PC and maybe you have like I think at that point I had an Xbox 360 or something
hmm.
like that. So you could only play those titles.
Yeah.
Um, but also I didn't want to buy every single game that came out. So it's like I'll just watch somebody else play it. I like their personalities. I remember watching Dead Rising. That was my
Mm,
favorite
hmm.
type of thing. And I still love watching like speed runs of that. That's super fun.
Mm.
What else was around back in the day? Geez, it's been so long. I'm trying to think. It's like, oh my God, 10 years ago
10 years ago.
since I left college. But yeah, like those types of games, a lot of RPGs and a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
came out like on PlayStation in general.
Right. Right.
Um, but yeah, like just anything. Or people just playing random little indie games. I think that was kind of the big thing to do for a long time was like,
Mm,
and it's still kind of big. All the new kind of indie stuff that like maybe doesn't get a whole lot of promotion and like it's just random Steam games or like random horror games off of Steam,
hmm.
good or bad. And those are great to watch.
No, you make a good point there talking about games that you can't play, but some games
Mhm.
are fun to just watch, and I think that that actually for me existed prior to, and I'm sure it did. It probably did for you, and I'm sure it did for a lot of people. Prior to even knowing about Let's Plays or whatever, just
Mhm.
those times where you might visit a friend or a relative or sibling or whatever, and they fire up a single player game. They're like, "You don't mind, do
Yeah,
you?" And you're like, "Nah, go for it." And then
go ahead.
half an hour in, you're like, "No, watch out for the," like you sort of you're
Yeah,
in there, you're invested, and it's sort of you back seat, you side seat, you
I've got
couch
it.
seat.
I got a
Um,
funny story about that back a long, long time ago. This was probably like I was maybe like 13 or so. I remember SOCOM 2 came out
mm,
fairly recently around that time. I'm probably a few years off, but still, it was Christmas time. SOCOM 2 came out. I got it for Christmas.
mhm,
And my grandfather had come over with, obviously my grandparents came over, family visit for Christmas.
mm,
And so he was just kind of sitting on the couch, also watching me and my cousin play. And so I'm sitting there and like we're doing our little Navy SEAL, whatever mission stuff and things like that. And he's like, "What are you people doing? Like, you're just killing people?" Like, yeah, yeah, Granddad, it's pretty fun. Like, all
Why
right,
would you do
I'm just
that?
gonna keep going. But like, I swear to God, 30 minutes into it, he was like super like involved and like, watch out for the dude over there. Like, he called out like what was it? I think like Tango, something like that. I forget what the military stuff is, but like he I think he was military at some point, so he was just
Right.
kind of like, "What are you doing?"
Well,
It was so fun.
that's crazy, and that's such a common story as well, right? Because yes, video games are addictive.
Mhm.
We know all about that, but I think a big part of that is because they're so engrossing.
Oh, yeah.
They can really catch you unawares.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
you can sort of say, oh, I'm just going to watch a little bit of it, a little 5 minutes of what this person's doing, and then half an hour's gone, and then an hour's gone. And
mhm.
do you
Very big
think
time savings.
do you think that there are certain game genres or styles or features of games that make them more viewable to you personally?
Um, I don't feel I watch a whole lot of competitive stuff,
Mm,
so I won't really watch League of Legends. I won't really watch StarCraft stuff. I used to watch
mm,
StarCraft.
mhm.
We used to have like a Barcraft events where a sports
Oh,
bar would actually
sweet.
live streamed esports type stuff, which was fun.
Mm, mhm.
But on Twitch, I don't really find myself watching those. So everybody who's really super into Dead by Daylight, like I'm happy for them. It's a great game. I haven't played it since it came out, but like I can't watch it. Like those are
Interesting.
the types of games I can't watch. It's so like it's hit or miss. You either have to be really good at the game for me to be entertained, or
Mm,
like you have to be doing something interesting with it,
mhm.
or be very, I guess, just knowledgeable in general. Um, but I can't watch just regular people play it. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
But with like a story, I would say my favorite streams to watch probably would be games that I'm like super invested in. So
Mm,
like Mass Effect. I love the Mass Effect series. I still haven't bought Legendary Edition. I was waiting to see like if it's a buggy mess. So like I'm waiting, but so far so good. But I do genuinely love watching people play like for the first time Mass Effect 1. And I'm just
mm,
like, you get to experience it from the very beginning and like hopefully you play to the very end of 3 and just, even though people have very opinionated stances on the ending itself,
I've heard. Yeah.
like it's a journey. It is a huge saga journey and like you get so invested in all the characters and the relationships and the lore and everything like that and just like the magic of
Yeah.
watching somebody experience that for the first time. Amazing. That's my favorite thing to watch.
That is a great. Excuse me. I have a real connection with that idea of something that you love, something epic like an RPG. Like I used to back in the Let's Play days, I used to like watching people first time playing like Final Fantasy VII or something like that, and
Ooh.
because I just had such a, I almost wanted to experience that
Like
first
awe.
experience again, and
Mhm.
to you sort of vicariously get that through someone else, and if you
Mhm.
like their personality, which hopefully you do, you almost feel like you're joining a friend as they experience something that you loved.
Right.
And I streamed Mass Effect for the first time about probably about 9 months ago, um, and I had a really good time with it, though something about the first game, and everyone tells me that two's really, really good, and I need to play two.
2 is where it picks up. Yeah. 1 is very much, you can feel the fact that BioWare and I guess whatever team was involved with
Mm,
Mass Effect 1,
mm.
you could feel the KOTOR in it. You could
Oh
feel
yeah, and Kotor's
Knights of
great.
the Old Republic. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm, mm,
But a shooter it is not. And that's kind of what they were trying to go for. It's a
mhm,
mixture of a very heavy RPG, but it also is a shooter,
yeah,
which kind of was a
it's a
it
weird
still kind of
combo.
works.
I
It's a
didn't.
combo. It's not something that anyone's really has done before, or it's
Mm,
not a common thing to do.
mm,
So I feel like that was probably where the issue mostly comes from is the fact that you're kind of you do have your biotics and stuff like that, so you have your powers which feel a lot better than doing any sort of shooting unless
mhm.
it's like a pistol related. Anything else like sniper stuff I could never do. Infiltrator with Mass Effect 1, the shotguns are completely useless no matter what. That's what I found. And yeah, it was mostly just biotic or what's the other one? There's a mixture of tech and biotic and I forget the name of it,
I
but yeah.
think I was a pistol boy. I
Yeah, you
think I was a pistol boy.
if you had a specialization with biotics and stuff like that, I
Mm.
would probably say you're most likely biotic
And I
as
think I
well.
was doing biotics as well, where you can like it's sort of
Mhm.
like the force, right? Like you can
Yeah,
yeah, I was
yep,
doing biotics and pistols.
exactly.
Mm. I no, I look, I didn't mind the kind of the unique system of it in terms
Hmm.
of like this not turn-based but strategic tactical
Yeah, you
cover
can pause
slash
in a way.
RPG. I found that interesting. My
Hmm.
my issue with it, and I should clarify, I really liked the game, and I'm actually considering replaying it from start. Maybe let's playing. I'm
Hmm.
not sure because the thing is, I played it on PC and I
Right.
don't know in terms of streaming or recording. I think it's better for me to play it on a console. So I'm thinking of restarting it because I want to get the story to cross over and doing a fresh run on
Right.
PS3. Anyway,
Hmm.
so I did really like it, but the
Yeah, I
the
would say like the difference. I don't know if the controls are any good. I never played Mass Effect on console. It's always
mm,
been PC for
mm,
me. Um, I assume it's probably
I'm
fine,
sure it's
but yeah,
fine.
yeah, it might just be a different experience at that point though.
I
But yeah.
think I think Spudsy, my mod, I think he played it on console, and he
Mm,
loves Mass Effect. Like
good.
he loves Mass Effect. Here's my tiny like meh where I decided that I wanted to finish when I wanted to. I'm like, you know
Mm,
what, I'm going to finish this game. Was the exploration to different planets. I loved reading
mm,
about the lore of the planets. I got really into all that and sort of building this
mm.
universe.
So much of it.
Going around on the buggy in the planets after a while felt a little repetitive, and some of the areas felt a
Yeah.
little bit like it was like empty. But I understand
Yeah.
why it's empty because it's a planet. But then it just sometimes I don't know, like it didn't.
It
Not all the
was
worlds felt
not.
as rich as possible.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously there's only three of them. So you have Novaria, which is the one that actually has a mission on it. And I
Mm,
think what else? Eden Prime has one, but you
mm,
don't really have to do anything on Eden Prime.
mm,
What's the other? There's two more, and I can't even think of them because I don't know. It's
mm,
been so long since I played it. But yeah, there's like three main ones that you actually do have to traverse that actually have cool stuff there.
mm.
I think the rest of it's just kind of space filler, which is fine.
I get
I
it.
have heard the Legendary Edition has, it seems to have improved that.
Mm,
So maybe if you do replay, get the Legendary Edition and
yeah.
see if that feels any better. Otherwise, I would if you're going to play on PC, there's a ton of mods for this game.
Oh.
A ton of mods. And
Mm,
I actually streamed when I streamed Mass Effect 1 through 3, I played completely modded. So I had story mods, I had texture mods, I had what else? There's a bunch of other stuff. Basically just graphical stuff just to make it look nice cuz obviously 2008 PC game not the greatest looking
well,
unless you have mods.
when you say story mods, what like
Mm.
new story beats or altered main quest, or what's the deal there?
Well,
Without spoiling it.
I yeah, I can't really spoil it. You will get there in Mass Effect 2, but
Mm,
there is one particular issue with some of the, well, with one particular character
mm,
in general. It's not a very satisfying ending,
mm.
and people got really mad. So, well, specifically, a lot of ladies got really mad. Anyway,
Oh, all right. Okay. Okay.
so,
I'm trying to think
so
of something.
somebody painstakingly developed this particular story mod that, in a way, corrects it.
Mm,
Not like you get a ton of new content. Some of it you do get new content with,
mm,
like conversations that don't exist
mm.
and interactions that never existed, which is kind of cool.
That is cool.
But other than that, it's pretty much just explained through emails and things like that, which still, it's perfectly fine. Like you can suspend disbelief for as long as possible, and then they fix the ending. And so you get a more complete ending with this story mod as well. So it's
Ah.
like it fit me perfectly. I was like, this is exactly what I wanted, and I'm so happy this exists. And like, yay, it made my gameplay so much better. But it is a pain in the ass to mod, I will tell you that. Like,
I
that's like the
have
worst game to.
no experience modding whatsoever. I think one day I'm going to get into it because I mean, lots of people
Mm.
around me mod. It seems like you've got modding down. Everyone when I was
I don't
playing
make anything,
Morrowind.
but I install them. Yeah.
Oh, you know what I mean though. You like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
even
yeah.
know how to install them if I'm perfectly honest.
Mm.
Like I'm sure it's just a couple of YouTube tutorials, but still. Um,
Typically, yeah. Mass Effect, though, for whatever reason, it's coded in such a way that like it makes it almost impossible to do anything without breaking the game entirely, and then you have to reinstall everything and then figure out
Mm,
what you did wrong, and it's a big mess. Like you one wrong move and then you have to reinstall everything.
wow.
And yeah, but I think now with Legendary, you don't really need the graphical stuff because it does look a lot better. So like that's at least like half of the mods taken care of. And
Mm,
then everything else just kind of like new costumes and stuff like that. But I'm not sure if they're even compatible anymore.
right. Yeah, I watched a little bit of gameplay of the new one with on Spudsy's channel, and it looked good. It looked
Mm,
good, and he seemed
mhm.
he's like I said, he's a huge Mass Effect fan, so he seemed pretty
That's
pleased
amazing.
with it as well. So that was
Mhm.
a good sign. What got you into streaming? Let's start earlier.
Oh, what got me into streaming? I don't really know what the urge was. I think around the time that I got into streaming, I had built a new PC.
Mm,
So I had all this like new gear and everything, and like I got a more powerful PC. I can do whatever I want with it now. I was like, you know what? I've always been kind of curious about streaming stuff. Like on
mm,
Twitch, I watch a lot of Twitch. I spend most of my time watching YouTube anyway.
mhm.
Like, why not? Let's just see.
Yeah,
It might be fun. And I think at that point I didn't really have a whole lot else going on. Uh, and yeah, it was just kind of like an experimental, like let's just dip our
yeah.
toes in there, see if content creation's kind of your jam. Um, and yeah, it just kind of went off from there. And I think like I technically started in March of last year,
Mm,
somewhere around there.
mhm.
Somewhere close to around when COVID was starting to pop off just a little bit and things were getting scary.
Yeah.
Um, and then I did it like once or twice, and then I was just like, I'm so exhausted. Like, this is so
Yeah.
exhausting. How do people do this for 8 hours? I've
Oh
only been
no.
playing for like 2 or 3 hours. This is crazy. And also at that time, this was like starting from scratch type of
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
like no viewers. I had no idea how to get
Damn,
anybody into
zero
my stream.
viewers. I
What
know
the
that.
hell do you stream?
Yeah.
All of the big learning curve, huge lessons that you have to learn firsthand fell into every single one of them. And so like it just got so demoralizing. So I
Mm,
quit for a little bit. And then I came back later on, more like October, November of that same year. And then yeah, just been kind of doing that ever since. And it's just been a great way to like meet people and I guess socialize in a way. I don't
yeah.
really go out so much, especially now since like I'm not in Ireland anymore. So like there's no pubs to join and
Right.
no
Right.
coworkers anymore. So but yeah, so I kind of, I guess, like it's a socialization type of thing at this point. It's kind of evolved from content creation, having fun, and then like this is kind of my way to socializing, hang out with people, have some fun, and like yeah, that's kind of where it is at this point, I think.
That's interesting. Yeah. It the lines can become blurred, can't they, between
Hmm.
maybe some content or even a product that you're making, but then some of the people consuming it are legitimately friends that
Hmm.
you might watch stuff that they make, or you might game with them off, or you
Hmm.
might have discussions with them on Discord, or this or that. And so yeah, it is a really interesting kind of complex
Hmm.
ecosystem, and this part of why I do this is I'm always curious to hear what people's takes on the whole thing are. And
Right.
another thing you mentioned was that you came back and you were demoralized. And let me
Hmm.
just say to you that, dude, the feeling of doing
You
I
know it.
everything you just expressed, then I went through too. The
Hmm.
zero, I had no idea what I was doing. Zero
Hmm.
viewers. I told no one. I didn't know how to do it
Hmm.
all. I would do 2 hours of talking to myself, and like I would see
Yeah.
one person pop in for a second and say, "Get all," and then I'd try and be entertaining, man. And then obviously they can tell I'm trying too hard, so they disappear. And
Oh,
then I get
oh
to
my God. Same.
and 2 hours of that, and I'm just like, oh my god. Oh my god! And you see people be going for 6 hours. How the fuck do you do
I
6 hours
know.
of this
Six,
shit?
8 hours.
Oh
Like, what
my
are you
god!
doing?
I think it's actually easier when the 6 hour. It's because there's people in those channels. I think is why
Yeah,
you can do it for
absolutely.
6 hours, because you're stimulated from other people coming in and saying
Mhm.
this and interacting with you. But yeah, it took me a long time. I remember when I first got 2 follows in a stream and 2 people watching and chatting with me, and I
Oh,
I felt so
it's the
like
best.
I was like, I'm
Validated.
like, man, I'm a fucking Twitch streamer now, man. And
Yeah.
but I just wanted to say that I can totally relate to some of those feelings of being demoralized that you had,
Hmm.
and it's also awesome that you came back.
Yeah, I mean, I made friends at that point because
Mm,
I had been like just kind of lurking in some other people's streams and kind of like, you get to know people and like you kind of get invested in other people's stuff.
yeah.
And so I met like this whole little group of friends and we all just kind of like chatted in everyone else's stream. I didn't stream at that point,
Mm,
but then I decided, you know what? Like cool. Then they're doing this, they're doing their thing. Maybe I should try it again. And like, I got the encouragement from all these people. Like, yeah, just like go do it. It'll be great. And so I think one of my friends, Foxton, he had promoted me in like 15 different discords or something like
nice.
that. So at one point I ended up like having like I think at this point it was like 10 people.
Oh
And I was like,
shit.
what do I do with 10 people in my chat?
Yeah, yeah,
And it was just like the best feeling ever. And it was just like it was so nice. And just like, yeah, you kind of learn the ropes. Like, yeah, no one knows who the hell you are. There are a billion people, not a billion, but you know what I mean? A ton of people on this platform doing the exact same thing,
mm,
streaming most of the time the same games that you want to stream as well.
yeah,
Or if they're not, nobody's watching this particular category for a reason. You're the only person who likes it, so stop
yeah.
streaming that at like a particular time or whatever.
Totally. Yeah,
But yeah, you learn all of that.
you do learn, and some lessons you learn quicker than others.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that the lessons never end for me.
Hmm.
And sometimes I have to learn a lesson 10 times before I really have learnt it. Sometimes the same thing, I have to
Hmm.
make that same mistake 10 times. One
Hmm.
of those for me was indies.
Hmm.
Love
Right.
them. But, I kept devising excuses for why I was going to stream this particular indie, this obscure indie that
Right.
I would play were I alone, and would enjoy, hopefully.
Hmm.
And every time, 5 hours later, I'm like, never stream an indie again. And then fast
Hmm.
forward 2 months, and then I create, but this one's different because of this, and then
Yeah.
never stream an indie again. Like it, sometimes it takes a while for me to
There's
learn
no
lessons.
category for it. Where do you even put it on Twitch and that kind of
Mm,
stuff?
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
which I feel like those do definitely a lot better, I would say, on YouTube because
Yes.
it's got a better discoverability. Anybody who's looking for that game, all they have to type in is just let's play whatever game, and then there you
Mm.
go. And sometimes your stuff ends up being towards the top anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so I think it's just yeah, so the platform's just not very good for small games. It's very, like I said, it's very, very commercial, very specific in what it's trying to do.
Mm-hmm,
And so,
mm-hmm,
like, if you're not playing the biggest titles, if you don't have a very big community to boost your numbers up towards the top to
mm,
get noticed,
mm-hmm,
then like it's this whole kind of climbing struggle of just
mm.
trying to figure out where's a good balance. Where is the not so populated categories that I still like to play, that my audience also likes to watch? And how can I, build, I guess, a bigger community, or how can I grow, or whatever, I guess, whatever the end goal is.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, what is the end goal for you?
Um, I don't know.
Mm.
Like I thought I'd be happy being affiliate, and I'm just like, yeah, that was cool. I met that goal, but it feels like this never-ending like um progression of like I met this goal. So now what?
What's
I
next?
guess I'll meet a bigger goal.
Yeah.
And then now what?
Mm-hmm,
And so
mm-hmm.
now, like, I feel like I have a pretty healthy little community.
You
Like,
do.
it's
You
not
do.
super big. It's not like the loudest. We're not the most popular. We're not like top of the line for whatever Twitch promotion type of stuff. But like, it's nice.
They
It's
come
really
back.
nice.
They come back.
People come back.
That's the
Yeah,
point, right?
exactly. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, at least like most people come back, which is
Mm-hmm.
nice. And considering, I guess like I look at it as like the ratio of people who do come back versus like the number I have, I find it like, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like not everybody, not all what 300 so people come back,
Mm-hmm.
but a good chunk of them do. And
Yeah.
that's like it's really nice in a way.
Yeah. No, and that's like, I that reminds me of when I got follow botted a while back, and
Oh
and thank you
yeah.
for help. Actually, it was you that helped me. You gave
No
me the tool to
worries.
get rid of
Yeah.
it. Thank you. But my fear actually that kicked in after I got them, and people like, you've got 15,000 followers, was, oh shit, this is gonna look bad. this is going to look bad because I've got like people are going to see 15,000 followers, 20
Mhm.
viewers, and go, well,
And they're
why?
like, "What the heck?"
What's these two numbers don't align? So I realized then that like having too many, like you don't want. Well, I
Mhm.
personally didn't think it was a good look to have that many followers, and I immediately wanted rid of them.
Yeah, no, 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 it makes sense because you also see it on other people's channels. Obviously, like, nobody's necessarily everybody's buying bots or whatever, buying follows. Like we don't, you can't make that generalization that everybody's doing it. But
Mm,
you do run into those certain streamers where like you're looking at their follower count and they're like, "Whoa, this person's got over 1,000 followers. That's so
mm,
cool."
mm,
But then like maybe they have like 20 people, 30 people in chat and you're like,
mhm.
"That's kind of strange."
That's
And yeah,
essentially me though. That's that's what it's gonna be when I'm at a
no,
thousand.
no. Not at all, not at all. But I mean, like, and even actually, I think even the worst fact is like their chats aren't even active very
Mm,
much. It's
mhm,
maybe
mhm,
just
mhm.
like one or two people, and the
Yeah,
rest are kind of lurking. Which I
yeah,
mean, no problem with lurking, but like it just looks kind of weird, and it's
yeah.
kind of off-putting in a way. Um, and I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily like the Twitch culture.
Mm,
I noticed I got invited to a bunch of follow for follow type of like dealies on Discord and things like that. So I don't know if necessarily like that's how it's happening or
mm,
just like train rating and whatever else that people do. Like it seems nice. It's kind of a nice hype
mm.
type of I guess thing to do, but at the end it's just kind of like it's empty.
It
Like
is
people don't
empty,
come
and
back.
yeah, if you don't like, you could have 500 people in your chat one day, but
Hmm.
if they don't want, if they're not interested in it, if what you're doing
Hmm.
doesn't resonate with them on some
Hmm.
level, then what, it's just it's a one off.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Actually, a funny story. One of the other bigger Twitch streamers that I do watch, somebody had asked him, "Hey, are you gonna?" Because he played, I forget what he played. He played something else. He's typically a Dead by Daylight streamer,
mm,
and he played something different. He played like an RPG for once. And they're
mm,
like, "Hey, are you ever gonna come back and finish that game? It's been like a week or so." And he's like, "Yeah, about that. So, like, you guys say you want to see this stuff, but like, when I do this stuff, like." Half of you barely come back. Nobody watches this. Like my analytics don't lie. Even though he has, again, like 500 people in his chat
yeah.
when this not popular game or whatever is being
Mm,
streamed.
mhm.
But like when you look at your numbers, you're just like, I've got like nobody here. Like,
Yeah,
where is
yeah.
everybody? And like even with that huge amount of people, it's still very demoralizing to
Mm,
kind of see like, well, this is not doing anything for me. Like,
mhm.
why even bother? So now you're just kind of like, this is my thing. I have to stream this one game because this is what my audience comes back for.
Yeah,
And
the pigeonholing. That's the
yeah,
classic
which is
classic
why
effect.
I do the variety streaming because like you know what? Hopefully I drag a whole bunch of people into like games that I like in general and
Mm,
like they stick around maybe.
mm.
But yeah, I couldn't just do like I can't do one game. Even if I was really good at it, I would hate to do just like the one game stream.
No,
And that's all I
I
do.
totally agree, and I've tried to go a similar way, but the weird thing is that I've actually really narrowed my field down. There's
Oh,
a lot of genres that are blacklisted from me for streaming,
really?
and
Like
so,
what?
I'm
Besides indie.
JRPGs done. They're gone.
Really?
They're done.
Wow.
I'll play them. I'm playing Final
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy 13 right now. I played it last night. It's great,
Mm-hmm.
loving it. Not streaming again. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'm iffy on 2D platformers. I'm iffy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm iffy on. I love them. I grew up on them. Iffy on them. Uh, what else? Well, in any indie title, any title that doesn't have a category,
Yeah.
any title that doesn't have, that has like if it has like no picture on the category as well. I'm not doing it. They haven't even bothered to put a pic. No, I'm out. What other things will I not do? Things with too many. Well, here's an interesting one. Yakuza. I love
Mm-hmm.
that game from watching. Well, I love what I've seen on your channel. Legitimately, it like looks fantastic. It looks right up my alley.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Funny, filled with character. I love the '80s setting. I love all of it.
It's great. Yeah.
I would personally, that's blacklisted for me though because there's too many cutscenes with speaking.
Yeah.
I so there's a lot of things that I've just learned don't work with like my rhythm
Mhm, mhm.
of how I interact with people. If I'm being stopped And that's why like Deadly Premonition and Heavy Rain, that's why that's on a YouTube, because I would never stream
Mhm.
those games.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
if I'm too interested in the game, if a game has a main plot that is too interesting, that's a red flag, because
Yeah,
then I'm
because
going to
you
be
don't end up talking to chat, I would think, right?
exactly, and half of chat
Mhm.
doesn't give a damn, and so
Mhm.
and that's fine. The half of chat's there to hang out, and I totally rep that. And so yeah, like I have a real, there's a lot of things I'm just like, no, 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 not going to
Yeah, I've been
happen.
kind of iffy with still going with Yakuza. Like it's every now and again when I do feel the urge to play it, then I'll stream it.
Hmm.
But like it is rough because it's a lot of reading. It's like
Hmm.
reading a visual novel
Yep,
half
yep,
the time, and then the other half the time it's like it's a lot of really nice looking cutscenes, which are fun.
yeah,
But just like, what do you do? What do you do during a 15-minute cutscene, which not only is that long, but it's also in another language. So it's
yes,
like I can't
yes.
even translate on top of it. I
Hmm.
can't even like add anything to it because you're too focused on like hearing this other language and then like trying to keep up with what's going on by reading.
I think it also depends on the streamer themselves as well. Like
Hmm.
everyone has their own like rhythm or cadence with
Hmm.
how they interact, and how much, like I tend to never shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And I'm one
Same
of
here
those.
sometimes.
And yeah, blabbermouths unite. And so that doesn't work for me. But then like Yakuza might work. I personally have really enjoyed it on your channel.
Hmm.
Um, but it's just one of those things I felt out over time, and that I've
Hmm.
sort of you know immediately. I remember someone told me once, like, you'll know that the problem is you'll know in the first 10 minutes if it was a bad
Hmm.
choice. But you kind of like,
Yeah.
if you committed, you kind of committed, and
Yeah, that's also my stream with what is it, Star Ocean Till the End of Time,
mm,
which I love that game. It's
mhm.
a phenomenal little game. It's some people have a problem with the ending as well, but like at the same time, it's fun. I thought it was great and it's great nostalgia. But like I noticed that like yeah, nobody really wants to watch this when I'm playing it, and it's
it's a
always like during the day, so it's like late at night for most people, and it's
mhm.
like all right,
it's a
okay,
it's a
I'm gonna cut this
JRPG.
stream short.
It's a
It's gonna be
JRPG. I don't
only a
think
2 hour stream.
I don't think they work well. Sorry for butting in.
Yeah, no
Uh,
worries.
I just I honestly believe JRPGs belong on YouTube. I just
True. Or
because
speed running.
or speed running. The
Mhm.
Agus Kun FF8 speed runs are great because
Mhm.
it's a different interface. Excuse me, with the
Right.
game, and it is exciting, and it is something that you can feel involved in with chat.
Mhm. Mhm.
And again, like a thing like an RPG, like a more of a CRPG or an action RPG, like a Souls game, I think they work really well for
Mhm.
Twitch. Um,
Mhm.
the thing is like that I came to was like, who's coming in halfway through Final
Right.
Fantasy 13? Like who's
Mhm.
like some people are coming in, I guess, but I don't know. It's a weird one that I'm not sure about, and therefore it's blacklisted.
Yeah, I mean, like even like I still haven't finished playing. I think Final Fantasy 13. I think maybe I started a long, long time ago and never
Mm,
finished it. But
mm,
like because I care about the streamer, because I care about you, I would hop in and just like yeah, I'll just chill out here. I'm doing other stuff too, but
mm,
like I'm kind of invested in like what's going on, even though I have halfway no idea
mm,
what's going on.
mm, mm.
But still, like it's fun. I think like, in those particular instances, yeah, it really comes down to like does the person care about the game itself, or
Mm.
do they care about just like the personality that's actually playing it and that type of thing?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean I can understand like if again if your numbers aren't showing it, it's really sad. You're just like, oh man, I could be playing something else, or I could be doing anything else right now. Nobody wants to see this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would say to that, if I were devil's advocate, but I totally agree with
Mm.
you. Just for the record, people would say to that, well, I mean, what if you're having fun, what does it matter? And
I mean, depends on the context.
well, I've got my opinion, but I'll just be that person and say, well, if you're having fun,
Mm-mm.
what does it matter, Melissa?
Oh, well, again, if I'm having fun, like usually I wouldn't be streaming it. Like that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I like it. Like actually right now I'm playing through Yakuza. I'm finally finishing like Yakuza 2
Mm,
and because I had put that down for like the longest time. But
mm,
like I forgot how much fun that game was. Like
mm,
it's been so long since I actually played. I'm like, "Oh yeah, this game is really freaking fun." And I'm
mm.
having a blast playing this by myself.
Yeah.
But like I feel like again because of the JRPG thing, if I was to stream this, which I really kind of hope to do one day,
Mm,
it's not on my high priority to-do list. It's going to be a bit of a chore because like I don't know who wants to watch this.
yeah.
And like yeah, I might be having fun, but like if I'm on Twitch, like it's supposed to be entertaining other people.
Yeah.
And if those people aren't entertained, then
Mhm.
like I'm not having fun, nobody else is having fun.
That's
And it's
yeah.
just this whole spiral of like, yeah, you should be having fun. You're playing video games. What are you doing? Like, well, yeah, but I'm also trying to do something else with it. I'm not just playing games
That's the
or
thing.
entertaining.
That's really well said. You know, the thing is streaming. Streaming is fun, and
Mm-hmm.
part of that is gaming, but
Mm-hmm.
part of streaming is wanting to stream well. And like you say, you're trying to
Yeah.
entertain people. And when you recognize that numbers are down, that's not just like, oh, boohoo, poor me, numbers are down, my analytics are going to look bad. That's like, oh no, I'm not doing the thing that people like some things, and this is not one of them.
Yeah.
And so that's like
You're wasting your time in a
yeah,
way.
yeah, that's how it feels. Absolutely. I just wanted to, I don't know, I just wanted to ask you that because I think that sometimes, because I talk about this sometimes even when I'm streaming, I'm like, no, I'll never
Mm.
play that again because of the numbers. And then people, I think sometimes people look at me as like I'm just some kind of number
Analytical.
glutton, you know, like I
Yeah.
just like, yes, bring all the popularity to me and I'll devour
Yeah.
it. It's like, well, yes and no, yes and no.
Yeah.
Um, Melissa,
Hmm.
is streaming weird?
Um,
Is it a weird
that could
thing?
be taken. It, in a cultural sense, in a, I guess, experience sense, I would say culturally, I think it's a little weird,
Mm,
but also not the same, not really kind of weird. I think it's just new
mm,
because I've said this before, but like people watch professional sports players play
mm,
football
mm-hmm.
all day long. People will watch hockey. People will riot in the streets if their favorite hockey team loses or wins, doesn't matter.
Yeah, if they play.
Like anybody, they're just playing. We're gonna ride in the streets. But like, that's like people watch other people do something either good or entertaining,
Mm,
but they don't necessarily do it themselves. But I
yeah.
think video games are in this weird kind of situation where it's usually just a solo activity for the
Mm,
most part.
mm,
Sometimes you have competitive stuff, but like most people just think of it, it's just a toy. It's just a game. It's
yeah.
it's not anything that's valuable. It's not art. It's not nothing.
Mm,
It's just something kids do, and therefore all you're doing is watching other people play video games, like watching TV passively in a way.
mm,
um I think it's just a different generational thing, and I feel like it's slowly becoming more of a norm that live streaming in general doesn't have to be Twitch, could be YouTube, could be Facebook, TikTok, whatever. People are getting to understand it's a little bit more than that. um for me personally, sometimes it's weird.
okay.
Sometimes it's
Do
weird.
do tell. Do tell.
I've met some really interesting people along the
Mm,
way,
mm-hmm.
most of which they have never come back, but it's been an interesting experience. You get to see all sorts of people, people who I guess maybe in a way build you up to be something that you're totally not.
Right.
I've had a couple of those, and I'm not going to name names or anything, but it's just kind of like, I don't know what to do with this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be mean to you, but it's just kind of like, let me diffuse the situation just a little bit. I'm not, I don't know who you think I am. I'm not that popular. I'm just playing video games. I'm having fun. And I don't know what I've done to like make you think this way about me.
Can I
And
can I
yeah,
probe a little bit here, and you
sure.
can you can push back if I'm going too far. Do you mean I'm getting a vibe that like some like idolization is going on?
Kind of. It doesn't happen very often, but I
Mm,
have like in my brain, I have very specific like memories of like maybe two or three times it's happened, and
mm,
it's just kind of like, this is weird. What do I do to this? Like
yeah, that's
I hope
peculiar,
they
isn't it?
come back, but they don't. So it's kind of like, why are you doing this? Like it's a weird parasocial type of thing, like you mentioned before. Like like somebody thinks they know me all of a sudden, like maybe they're brand new or like they've only been in my chat for maybe a week and then all of a sudden they're like, I don't know, like speaking for me or making comments about me. And I'm
Ooh.
like, "Mm,
Mm.
it's a little weird.
It's a little
What are you
weird.
doing?
It's a little weird.
A little strange."
How do you deal with some of the ego stuff? And I'm not trying to say like you have some kind of gigantic inflated ego,
Mm-mm,
but I feel like
right.
it's impossible to avoid ego related feelings or experiences on Twitch.
Um, I guess just kind of remembering in general, like, um, what is it? Remembering that, like, we're all just people
Yeah.
in general. Like,
Mm.
I don't feel like I'm super special or really better than anybody
Mm.
necessarily.
Mm.
And like, we're all just kind of doing our best.
Mm-hmm.
And also like, people are only really seeing what I want them to see in a way.
Yes. Curated visions.
And
Yes.
yeah, exactly. And so like, I don't know, it's just kind of like I just try to remember that and just try to be true to myself.
Mm.
And I honestly feel like every time I go to stream, it's always kind of a struggle, like, oh my God, I hope I don't say anything stupid
Oh
today.
yeah. Me
Like
and me both.
what's gonna happen? Uh I'm more like I psych myself out of like having an ego, I think,
Well, I
is
didn't.
what I feel like.
What I didn't just mean to say like the big ego or whatever. Sometimes
Oh.
it can be the converse, right, or the inverse. Sometimes it can be having negative ego feelings or feeling
Mm.
like sort of hurt pride or hurt ego when things don't go well, or things like that.
Oh, in that case, I've been probably really bad about that. I think
Mm,
when I started out, again, being demoralized was very
mm.
easy to do.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yep.
either the numbers or like something happens like with the stream or my internet wasn't very good or like maybe I'm muted for half an hour and like obviously nobody can tell me about this. And just
Sorry, I shouldn't have.
I mean, we've all been there. We've all been there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And just kind of, I don't know, like, I think over time, it's just kind of gotten to the point where I realize this VOD's not going to be on here for very long. It's
Yeah.
going to be 30 days tops. Or if I really wanted to, I could just delete it in general. It's not, it's gone. And I don't have to
Mm,
think about it anymore.
mm.
Um, but yeah, it's just kind of like trying to remember that you know, no one really is going to remember a whole lot of it. Even if I felt like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Why did I do that? Why did I even bought like just you think back on everything that happened during that stream, you're just like, this
Yeah.
was the worst freaking stream of my life.
Hmm. Hmm.
But at the same time, nobody remembers this.
Yep.
Anybody I would ever talk to would be like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even remember this conversation happening. I'm like, oh, okay, good.
That's
So
reassuring.
yeah, it's really nice. But yeah, I think that's kind of my mindset would be like, just forget it. I guess feel the emotion now,
Mm,
feel all of the hurt and the sadness and whatever else you need to feel, the anger,
hmm.
and then just let it go. You
Yeah.
felt it, you've dealt with it. Okay. No reason to keep thinking on it. Just let it go.
Yeah.
And then I think that's kind of what's helped me over like the last year or so.
I think that's a really good take. It's a really good perception and way of viewing it. And as you were talking about the worst, this is the worst stream ever. I just recalled how many worst stream evers I've had, and it's actually mathematically impossible how many worst streams ever I've
Mm.
had. And so, yeah, and you do forget about them. But they keep coming back, and it's
Oh yeah.
it's like it's so weird because it's Twitch's streaming or content creation, all of that is at once competitive and yet
Mhm.
supportive. It's
Yeah.
social and yet individual.
Or
Uh,
isolating in a way too.
it's social and isolating. You hear a lot of content creators talk about feelings of feelings of alienation and isolation and loneliness,
Mhm.
which is really that fascinates me. Like Have you heard about this much of streamers talking about loneliness? Have you experienced it? And if we're going too deep, we can dip out.
I mean, that's fine. Streamer wise, I know of some streamers who've definitely taken a long hiatus.
Mm.
They've been gone several months because they're just like, I can't. I'm at my breaking point right now.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it's either their life and just something happened in IRL, or just the pressures of streaming, or something's bothered them.
Yeah.
And I think also a lot during lockdowns and COVID and everything like that, the fact that like you can't really see your real friends,
Yes.
and so this is like the only socialization that you
Mm.
have. And if it doesn't go well, or like you can't actually like talk to very many people, or if something else happens in real life that you can't really talk to other people on
Yeah.
stream or off or whatever, it just become like this weird, I guess, dance of like I'm talking to people. Obviously, I have, some connection with these people, but at the same time, I don't, because I don't know, maybe it's just different than meeting people in real life, or family and friends that you're really close to, you've known for a long, long time.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I've definitely felt that. And yeah, just a handful of people. I haven't heard of too many people who've been, I guess, like super, super lonely
Yeah.
with streaming.
It's one I've seen and experienced to some extent. It's so strange. I've been very lucky
Mm,
to actually build what I truly mean genuine friendships with people that
mhm,
I've collaborated with, people who I've done content with. You know, it's I feel very lucky to have made these connections, but even still, it all sort of. Uh, Especially if you're in an isolated situation, maybe you live in a rural town where you don't have many
mhm.
like-minded people, or maybe you're in a
Rural
lockdown
town in a different
in a
country that
different
doesn't speak English.
country that doesn't speak your language, and so it all exists. It's in this machine that you turn on and off,
Mhm.
and that and it's sort of it's not it's organic. Like, I believe that you're a human being of flesh and blood,
Right.
but you, for all intents and purposes, are something that is created by this machine. and
Yeah, I've
and
never actually thought about it like that, the on and off thing. Like that's
mm,
that's interesting.
it's very interesting. And you can, I mean, in real life, it's kind of the same, I guess. You meet up with someone at the workplace, or you meet up with someone at a party, or you meet up with someone at the park, or you go and play a sport, or you go to a reading club, whatever you do, and then you go, bye
Mhm.
bye, I'm going home. Uh, but there's just more of this feeling of being in a space together, and I think that's something that the one
True.
thing that's been missing from the one thing that sort of is missing from parasocial relationships that
Mhm.
perhaps IRL relationships have. And but this is an interesting question, actually. How fulfilling do you find these relationships can be?
Like the streaming viewer kind of relationships,
Yeah,
or
or
IRL,
and
or
well, streaming, these online kind of relationships, be they from whatever position.
I mean, I think they can be as fulfilling as
Mm,
IRL ones.
mm, mm.
One of my students was actually talking about how they have friends that just like purely date online. Like they don't really have any intention of ever meeting up with these people in real
Interesting.
life, and just they have this whole online relationship, and they tell each other they love them, and they talk about their days and all the little intimate stuff that you would do with an
Mm,
IRL person.
mm.
So I feel like yeah, they can be fulfilling, fulfilling in a different way,
Yeah,
because I think there is value in having a like an IRL relationship, being able to physically see somebody
yeah.
and be with them, is definitely important, I think, as for us as a species. Um, I just think this is kind of like maybe it's like a new frontier in a way. Like
Mm.
this is like never happened in the course of human history. We can communicate. You are literally like what, 8 hour flight from me, I think, or something like that, some long ass
10
distance
maybe.
away.
Yeah, yeah,
10 hours, something like that.
yeah.
But we're having a conversation right now, and it's being recorded, and it'll go on the internet. Like who would have ever thought that this would be a thing? So
To
I think
anyone,
it's
I
just it's
just like to
very
point out, sorry, to anyone watching, we're actually not having this conversation now. We had this
yeah,
conversation about a week
in the
ago.
past. Yeah.
Just all right. Sorry.
True,
Continue.
true, 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 true.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting about that. But yeah, but it's really weird,
Mm,
right?
very weird.
And yeah, this is not something that us as a species have ever experienced.
No, no.
So it will over time, I guess, change or just at least become a more normal thing, and
Yeah,
maybe it'll hold more of I guess like a impactful type of weight to it rather than, oh, it's just online, it's just frivolous, we're just, you just chat with people and whatever.
yeah.
um but yeah, it can be fulfilling. Just
Mm,
depends on what you're looking for, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. Okay, I like that. I like that answer. Um, this came up because I was listening to another streamer, a big streamer, and
Mm,
she was talking with someone else about streaming, as apparently that's all streamers do now is talk about
that's what
streaming,
we do.
um, art imitating art, and
Mm,
but she was talking about how on the one hand, it might seem you might have this idea of sort of an egomaniac streamer that wants all the attention and all eyes are on them, and
mm-hmm.
they yes, yes, shower me with praise and give me your views and give me your numbers and oh, isn't this lovely? uh, but at the same time, she mentioned that whenever she goes anywhere and talks with IRL friends, she catches herself because all she's ever talking about is stuff that happened on stream and stuff that someone said on
Mm-hmm.
stream. And so you can see that no, actually, it is a two-way relationship, and these relationships do impact
Oh yeah.
the streamers and the interactions they have, even though it's a little different. The people in chat, you might not know what they look like. You might
Mm.
not know what they sound like. You might not. You only know what they express through text, maybe, or
And the color
memes.
of their little tag.
That's important.
Yeah.
That's very important.
It sucks
Um,
when people change their colors. I'm like, damn it, who are you? Oh, I see. I have to read your name now.
well, you know what also sucks, or no, what sucks about me
Mm,
is that most of the time, if I don't notice someone in chat, it's
mm,
because they have the same color
to somebody
name
else.
as someone else who's been chatting a lot. And so I don't, and
Yes.
they just said one or two things, and I'd go back and go, oh, motherfucker, this person was in here. I didn't even respond to them. I thought it was just part of that. Like that's a sneaky one. That gets me a lot.
Oh, that's so funny. Um, but yeah, yeah, I think like yeah, the whole bleeding over into real life, things that happen on stream, definitely. I think I'm lucky because I don't stream long periods of time. I'm
Mm,
only like maybe tops 4 hours.
smart.
Also really late at night in general. And also I don't have a ton of people to talk to. So it's like, who do I really talk to about streaming? Not a whole lot of people.
Mm,
But like I could definitely see that if I was doing 8 hour streams every single day and like I only maybe saw my real like IRL friends on weekends or maybe like after hours or something like that. Like that's your whole day. That's pretty
yeah.
much like a job at that point. Like people talk about their work all the time or whatever's going on in their life that, takes up the majority of their time.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Mm-hmm.
and it's a weird kind of thing, yeah, because you're talking about people that you don't necessarily like know
Yeah.
in a way.
But at the same, it's interesting because at the same time, if I think about my uh, former career, let's say, and
Mm,
or some of my former workplaces, uh, surrounded for 3 years in this office with all these people, how
true.
much did I really know about them?
Yeah, that is true. I haven't thought about that. Yeah, definitely.
Only the people, only if you like, I lived with a housemate. I lived with a housemate.
Mhm.
Wow. I worked with a housemate. I lived with a housemate. I
Somehow,
I woke up in the morning.
he was
But
there.
so we had a really good relationship. Uh, so
Mhm.
that was I knew her, and then there's another friend I have from work who I spend a lot of time with outside of work and hang out with him. But as for that's workspace, like I would say that I probably have learnt more about mildly active members of chat
Mhm.
in 6 months than I did in 3 years with a lot of people in the workplace, and
True,
that
true.
was IRL.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, no, I haven't thought about it that way. Yeah, I think the same thing. I used to work for Twitter, and so like our whole crew of people in our particular division, I guess you want to call it, we had almost 100 people. And it's
Mm,
like I maybe hung out with the people I came on board with for the most
Mm,
part, or like people who are of similar ages as me, or like maybe I discovered one little cool thing about them, like, oh, wait, you're into that too? Same here. Let's be
mm,
friends.
yeah,
But yeah, maybe it's just like a handful of them, and it's like, yeah, that's about it. And everyone else, I'm like, who are you?
yeah,
I know your face, but I don't know your name, and we've worked together for a year now.
yeah, yeah. I forget. I used to forget a lot of names as well, which is really bad.
Mm.
Worse is when they remember yours and then you
Oh my
forget. And
God,
you,
that is the worst. And then you just start sweating. You're like, oh, yeah.
it's rough. It's rough. Do you do any like tricks to get their name? Like, do you do a how do you spell it? That's my trick. Is how do you spell your
Um,
name again? Is it I? And then they say like, ah, I thought it was with a C. Okay, all right, and then
uh,
you're like, ah, no.
I think the one trick I did at one point, I don't because it didn't happen too often, because usually you just kind of segue your way out of it. You just think of a way just not to refer to them by their name and
Hmm.
just kind of like obviously I'm talking to you, so I don't really have to say your name, so it's
It's true.
okay.
It's true.
Uh, and the one trick I did though was like I told somebody to send me an email. And luckily enough for
Oh,
Twitter, our names were our email addresses too. It was like, hey,
hey,
that's cool and all, but like, could you send me that in an email? Like I'm totally gonna forget about that in a second. Just like you just send me a quick email with that same stuff, and then yeah, I'll take care of it. And I did that once or twice.
that's a good strat. I like that.
It's
That's
pretty good. It's pretty good. It was quick thinking on my
it's
part. I was like, oh,
professional
thank
and conniving. I like
And
it.
they also had a signature too, so it's like perfect. I know exactly what your name is.
Oh yeah.
Hey, so and so, thank you for your email. Let's get on it right now.
Fuck
You have a
yes.
good one.
So you worked for Twitter.
I did.
Tell me, well, maybe not everything, but tell me, how did you get into it? What was it like?
Oh, that's actually a cool story. So originally I was supposed to work for Facebook
Oh,
for their, what was it, workforce app or something? Some of their internal app for something or other. I forget what it did.
mm,
But so I was supposed to do like, I think either IT or something or other with that.
mm,
And that contract ended up falling through
mm,
because they forgot to, I guess, lease out enough space for all the new hires. And so they're just like, we do not have room for these people. Why did you hire them? And so like there's this whole big drama about it. So like my recruiter came back to me, and she was actually a good friend of mine at the time, and she's like, Mel, I am so sorry.
mm, man.
So bad news. Facebook has kind of dropped the job and everything like that. And
Hurts.
and this was like a whole month. I had waited a whole month to start and everything like that because I had like all the good interviews and everything. Everything was squared away. It's just they didn't have the room. And so
That's
she's like, I'm
rough.
gonna make this up to you. I have this other position. It's not the same thing. It's content moderation. It's for Twitter, so it's still like social media-ish. And they need a bunch of people like now. So like I feel like this is a good bet, and they're a good team, and we've recruited for them before. So here, go interview over there.
So it was a different field, not only because when I hear Twitter, Facebook, I'm like, okay, that's the same kind. That's both in the industry, but it was you went to a completely different job, I guess.
Yeah, so I think so the recruiter I was with, CPL, they basically do a whole bunch of technology-based
Mm,
recruitment. So
mm-hmm,
they have contracts with Facebook, with Twitter, with YouTube. There's a YouTube office in Dublin.
mm,
There's also TikTok as well. TikTok has an office in Dublin.
mm,
So they're doing all of these things, recruiting for all of this stuff.
mm.
And but yeah, they needed a ton of people. The only problem was they needed somebody also with a second language. Like they were primarily hiring people that
Ah,
were English speakers, but had a second language. And
okay,
I was like, I don't have a second language. I don't know what I'm going to do. Are you kidding me? Like, this is not going to work. But like, they liked me enough. I had enough knowledge about like policy intuition. Like, obviously, I'd never done anything like that before, but like, I could at least like think through what I would do and like rationale, like decisions I would make based on certain things. And they liked that enough. And they're
mm,
like, all right, cool, awesome. You can start next week. I'm like, great,
that's dope.
cool. What are we doing? And this is around the time when what was it? France and Germany had just come up with their hate speech laws, and they were
Oh,
basically going to fine all of the social media content that didn't comply with hate
oh.
speech
So
stuffs in their country.
there was some stress, there was some pressure on the.
Huge fines, billions of dollars type of stuff. So they needed people on like hand immediately to be trained on this new policy. It was still changing. I think it's still updating every now and again too, getting like more clarification on what they're talking about.
So
Um, but yeah,
sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt. So what was the situation? France and Germany had passed hate speech laws where if things were not moderated on social media, they would go to the companies and find them.
So they added hate speech laws to their country laws,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
in Germany right now, you cannot have any sort of reference to Holocaust denial, referencing Nazi iconography in a
Mm,
glorifying way,
okay.
all sorts of different stuff, very
Mm,
specific to German law and also slightly different, but very specific to French law.
mm,
They're a lot more harsh compared to US, which is what all the policies on Twitter, Facebook, and all that jazz are based on. It's
right.
all US, like, freedom of speech, First Amendment type of stuff, right?
Mm, mm,
They're not going to get in the way unless it's really, really bad and life threatening. But
okay.
France and Germany are like, we don't really agree with that. And you need to take this shit down based on the geolocation of these particular users. So if somebody is in Germany tweeting something terrible that violates German law but doesn't violate Twitter policy, then it gets taken down for German viewers. So German viewers will not be able to see that content. It'll
Fascinating.
still be on the platform, but people in Germany won't be able to see it. Same thing with
Oh,
France as well. So, so yeah,
okay.
it's mostly just withholding content. So it's not removal, but it's withholding it for certain users in those particular countries.
That's so complex because you've got the issue of whatever terms of services of whatever platform it is, and then
Mhm.
every single country that you're in that are using
It's
it.
starting to get bad. There was a Turkish one that came out somewhat a little later that we didn't have to implement. This was a different team, I think, but I remember seeing Turkish content withholding, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. And so I
What kind
think
of stuff do you know?
I don't know things against Erdogan, things pro Kurds.
Okay, okay.
Not sure. I didn't see anything like that, but like
Wow.
because we didn't have to deal with it. But again, all these countries I think would have their own policies, and so it could get to the point where you have policies for every single country based on what they feel is appropriate for their country
That's
and their citizens.
really messy. That's
It is.
really messy because then that's like
It
the
is.
dark side of moral relativism, really. Like that's
Mhm.
like where you.
We get our own firewalls. Everybody's got their own firewalls now.
Yeah, yeah. Ah, damn. I that's really really interesting because
Mhm.
you can simultaneously you could have diametrically opposed ideology. You could be simultaneously supporting both by
Yeah.
maybe blocking. I'm just thinking. I don't think have any examples in my mind, but just theoretically, you could have A, which directly contradicts B, but they're both countries that are users of your platform, and therefore
Mhm.
this viewpoint's blocked here, and then that viewpoint's blocked there. That's
Yeah.
great. That's crazy
Mhm.
shit.
You have to select a particular, yeah, content withholding, yeah, and it would
Wow.
just get more and more complicated where it's like, so like at a certain point, we had basically I just had two, well, actually I was on the French team, so I only had really one content withholding to focus on. It's either
Mm,
like, all right, I look through it and I figure out, all right, does this violate Twitch or not Twitch, sorry, Twitter policy, like a TOS policy for Twitter. And if it doesn't, I'm like, all right, cool. Let me check this for French content withholding.
mm,
And so I go through my list of like, okay, what is this actually saying? Does it do this? No, it doesn't do that. It doesn't do this either. It's not this. And you just kind of go through and like, all right, it's fine. And then you let it go. But if I had maybe if it got to the point where I had to work multiple queues, where I had to do both German and French, and another country policy, then I have to start thinking about, okay, this doesn't violate French policy, but it violates German policy. And it
mm.
also violates this other policy too. So how am I going to do this? So I have to click through all of this stuff saying like, yeah, all right, remove it for here, remove it for there. And it's just, I feel like it's just going to get ever more complicated. And I
Yeah.
do not envy anybody who's still left there. I think last time I heard, there's only one other person who was with my batch Tweeps, and he's still there. Everybody else left, and so it's just
Yeah.
brand new people, which is like, and it's tough because that's all the knowledge has left. Everybody who's been on that team for so long, just like the brain drain from that position, you have to
Mm,
retrain everybody. And now you have to make sure everybody's up to like snuff when it comes
yeah.
down to quality. And
Wow.
it's just a pain in the ass.
I can imagine that really taking its toll
Hmm.
on people doing it, and on the organizations themselves. But I mean, I'm more concerned with the people doing it.
Oh yeah. Again, fuck Twitter.
Yeah.
Honestly, just fuck them
Yeah.
all. They're all terrible.
Yeah. The
But
businesses.
like there are like people seem to think it's just completely bots, but a lot of it isn't. A lot of it is
Mm,
us training the bots to remove other content and things like that. And
wow.
if it
Okay.
gets kind of pushed back, like, hey, why'd you remove my stuff? Oftentimes that will go to a person and they'll have to like review it and just see like, all right, does this really need to be removed and what else to
Mm.
do? But there's a ton of people on the back end from all over the world who do moderation for everything. And you see some terrible stuff, you see some graphic things, like you get so desensitized to everything, you're just like, the world is horrible. It's just like this is the worst. Like why?
I
Why are we here?
Well, that's the craziest thing, right? And I haven't had I haven't been in your position. You've been on the.
I mean, it wasn't all bad, but like it gets to that point
I'm
sometimes. It's just
sure you
like,
see a lot of bad
all
though,
I'm
right?
doing is looking at this. This is like the worst. The best part, though, I will tell you
Mm.
this, the brightest part of the day was when all the K-pop fans started fighting with each other. So they would report each other. So you'd get like BTS fans mad at like Blackpink fans, or BTS fans mad at who's the other one?
Okay.
EXO fans. So they're reporting each other's stuff. So all you're getting is like a massive like queue of nothing but K-pop gifs. I'm just like, all right, this is great. Thank you, K-pop people. K-pop Twitter, you're the best.
What were they warring, like were they like slandering the other stars, or it was
No, they're
just
just
that,
reporting.
oh,
They're just
we
reporting
don't want
content.
them supporting this person because
Yeah,
that's
I
not
don't
our
like you.
person.
You're supporting BTS. I'm an EXO fan. So I'm gonna report your account.
That's
I'm gonna report
amazing.
everything on your account and get you suspended because that's how suspensions work on Twitter. Apparently, is
That's
if I
incredible.
report you more times than the other person, I win and your account gets taken down.
Wow.
Which it doesn't work that way. It's not, and not at all. Like it doesn't matter how many times you report somebody. If it doesn't violate, it doesn't violate. So we just have to waste our time.
Note to self: report as many times as possible.
Yeah.
Have you ever been suspended from social media or banned from anything? Have you ever been on the end of the hammer?
I don't think so. Um, in a game, maybe? No, I don't really do too many online games.
Not blacklisted from any
I don't
from
think
any
so. I did
forums.
get, well, I mean, like, I've gotten like timed out in people's Twitches because they
Okay.
have their moderation set to like, don't spam emotes. And then I accidentally spam emotes because that's just what I do when I
Mm,
raid or when I like meet people. And like, I use the lol emoji a lot. And just
mm,
like, I just hit it
me
four
too.
times and like, oh, now I'm timed out. Shit. Sorry.
People don't like that. Interesting.
I mean, well, it makes sense because sometimes you'll get people to just spam a ton of stuff or
Yeah.
spam all caps. Like there's a reason. I just wish there was a way to like I guess fine tune it. Like
Mm,
allow this emoji, this is fine, but like maybe say don't allow 50 of them. Don't allow 10 of them. Something like that. Not just
yeah.
like what does spamming an emoji mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's very kind of nebulous.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think I've been banned from anything before.
Yeah.
I never used to, even when was using Facebook, I didn't post much. I mostly just silently
Mhm.
judged other people.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't really get banned for that. Uh,
Mm. Yeah, I
uh,
don't stir too much drama on social media. I
no.
find it just so just time consuming. Like I back in the day, maybe I'd argue with people on YouTube, but like I actually found myself today about ready to like reply to somebody, and I typed it out twice, and I'm just like, this is why. This is just fuck off, whatever. Just downvote, 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 whatever.
You've lived abroad
Hmm.
in multiple countries now.
Hmm.
You mentioned it was Ireland and now South Korea.
Hmm.
Um, you've been, I think you said how long have you been in Korea?
Came last June, so actually just almost a year now.
Mm, mm. And Yeah, let's talk about Korea first. So, what prompted your move there from Ireland?
So that is a very long, not a long story, but kind of a long story. So moved to Ireland to escape 2016's election, basically.
You're just sick of it.
Uh, yeah, well, I was just like, I don't want to be in this country anymore. Like, I
Mm.
know what's going to happen and
Hmm.
just like, don't want to deal with it. So I
Mm,
have a
mm.
British passport. My dad's British. I was able to get my
Hey,
passport from
British
him. I
gang.
know. That's what I was gonna say. Like we're both a foreign national British gang,
Let's
and
go.
so yeah, so I could easily move to Ireland, no visa necessary, permanent residencies doesn't matter because Ireland and the UK have a nice working relationship with each
Hello,
other.
hello, hello.
So it works out really nice. And
Mm.
it's at that point it was kind of also the Brexit thing as well. So I was like, let's just go to Ireland. Ireland's great.
Yes, yes.
So moved there, worked what did I do originally? I had money, so I basically was looking for work. Eventually met my husband
Mm. In
and
Ireland.
so, yeah, yeah, we got
Huh.
married well, we got married in South Korea. So
So
we
you're
we
only
met in
recently
Ireland.
married.
Not really. 2017. Yeah, 2017.
Oh,
Something like
okay.
that.
So it
18.
wasn't.
No,
I
no,
thought
no,
it was
sorry.
in the
Yeah.
past year. Okay, okay.
No, it's been 3 years. Jesus Christ. What year is it now? It's 2021. I think
Uh,
3 years. Three
yes.
years now we've been married.
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus, I cannot like again. I have no idea what time it is
Oh,
anymore.
dude, I
Anyway,
forget my age all the time. I understand.
all the time. Or like
Mm.
when you left college, like, oh my God, it's been 10 years. Holy shit. But anyway, got married, had a baby, and then COVID happened. And then we were like, well, we
Mm.
don't want to be in Ireland
Yeah.
because Ireland sucks. And at that point, it was really bad because Ireland, as good as it is for having public health care and all that jazz, best experience of my freaking life for the most part, being able to go there, give birth and everything, and not have to pay a dime. Not a single dime. I
Nice.
walked out of there with my baby and like that was it. And they gave us some stuff and there you go.
That's the good
But
socialism. That's the kind of socialism I
yeah.
like. There we go.
I mean, the only bad part I would say is the fact that like I didn't get a private room to recover. I was in a room with like maybe five other women
Okay.
with their babies, newborns. Kind of sucked. And also couldn't be there with my husband either. So like overnight, I had to like learn to be a mom real
Oh,
quick. You
oh,
got to like nurses were there and everything like that, so you can call
he couldn't be
somebody
there.
on shift. No, he couldn't. No, they didn't
Oh,
allow him overnight.
okay.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
So like I had to do everything by myself, and that I mean, like we can get into that conversation. That is like a trip and a half. You don't know how that whole experience is going to go until you go through it. But
yeah.
just like I couldn't sleep, like staring at this little baby. I'm like, this is mine now. I have to take care of this thing. What am I going to do? I hope he
That
doesn't
must be
like stop
so
breathing.
weird.
I
Yeah.
watched him the entire night, making sure he didn't like stop breathing. Like that was my whole goal, which is the worst. You should just go to sleep because you need to. But
Yeah.
yeah, again, when you're in that situation, you don't realize it.
Right, right.
But yeah, so Ireland doesn't have the best hospital capacity. There's maybe like a few big hospitals, mostly in Dublin,
Mm.
and a few in different counties, but they're very old school for the most part. There's not a huge population in Ireland. So the infrastructure really wasn't there for pandemic. So when
I
a lot of people are
see.
getting sick and
I
everything like
see.
that, taking up hospital beds, you can't treat the cancer patients. You can't have a maternity ward or maybe like somebody needs to be in surgery or something like that. Like all this stuff kind of got in the way. And so we're just like, what's the best bet? Like we definitely don't want to go back to the US
Yep.
because no thank you. It was bad
Mm.
from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
And Korea was doing okay. So we're just like, you know what? We have family in Korea. Let's just go to Korea. It'll be fine. Korea's doing okay.
Mhm.
And yeah, and like we could work as a English teacher and stuff like that. So
Mm,
that
mm,
all kind of
mm.
worked out. It's been a little bit of a struggle, but at the same time, like we were definitely in a better place here than in Ireland going through the whole year. So that's why we're here.
That's great. No, I imagine my only reference for what I imagine the Korean healthcare system is like
Mm-hmm.
is Taiwan, and I was Taiwan might be unique though. I'm not sure. The Taiwanese healthcare system is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. Very, 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 very efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has access to it. It's I don't know, but I just got the feeling Australia has a pretty good public health care system. It'd
Mhm.
probably be top 10% of the world sort of thing. It's good. I felt like it was even better in Taiwan. I felt like they just had their shit together.
Mm.
What have
Yeah.
you? I guess maybe you haven't needed to experience it, but maybe I guess you still were there during the context of what's been going on.
Yeah, well, for the most part, Korea really handled it really well.
Mm,
Like masking is just a thing ever since kind of what was it? Bird flu and the original SARS uh
SARS, yeah,
back like what 10, 12, 15 years ago, something like that. Like
yeah, at
masking has
least.
been like a cultural thing since.
Yep.
Like people are fine with it. They understand. People wear them nowadays just because they're sick in general, which I feel like is the best thing ever. Like, yeah, just wear a mask if you got like a cold or something so no
Mm,
one else gets sick. It's
hmm.
super nice. But other than that, the vaccination process, or at least the testing, because we haven't been able to get vaccinated yet. There's a whole, not a scandal, but just like drama with getting adequate numbers of vaccination or
Oh yeah,
vaccines here.
it's happening here too.
Yeah, we got completely screwed out of our supply. But for testing, like I live in like freaking rural Yeoju area. There's farm. You've seen my outdoors. I've got rice fields out there,
It's
right?
lovely. It's
Like
really
in
nice
the
view.
it's nice, but
Mm,
like we're in the middle of nowhere.
yeah.
And so there was a one week they had a testing facility, just pop-up testing facility, right down the street from us. And so they were just like, yeah, so anybody who's in this area, we need you to come down. It's free. Just get swabbed and we'll get you all tested. And this was just
Mm,
kind of a random thing just to see like, I guess, if there's any spread in different areas and things like that. And like within 2 days, 2 days, I got results back. They're like, yeah, you're all
wow,
negative. It's fine.
that's great.
And like I could just like right now, I could go down to the market and just be like, hey, I would like a COVID test, please. And like they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. We'll just swab you right here. Who cares? Like it's
Mm,
very readily available. People are taking it seriously in general.
mm,
And I don't think the hospitals had to deal with too much, unless like maybe early on when it was still pretty new and nobody really knew what it was,
mm,
maybe. But their hospitals here are huge.
yeah.
There are so many people here. Like, I think population wise, I read something like if you take the state of New York, which has, I think, like, I want to say like 13 million people, 20 million people, something like that,
Mm,
right? Seoul itself has 55 million people,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
think. Or maybe it's not Seoul, but Korea itself, somewhere around there. It's like twice the population and like mega density.
I would say it's
It's,
probably Korea. It's, I mean, I don't know,
yeah.
but that's a fuck ton. Like, for
But
context
like when
sake,
you go, yeah, like when you go, like even around here, we have apartment buildings that are like 20 stories tall,
yeah,
like
yeah,
in a rural area.
crazy,
It's
right? It's
wild.
crazy. Yeah.
And the closer you get to city center, like soul wise, the
Mm,
bigger the towers get and everything. You're just like, it's block upon block upon block of just like all of these apartment buildings. And still, we managed to not really exacerbate things here.
that's
I
great.
think the last I heard was like 400 cases.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's been
that's
pretty
really
decent.
impressive. Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
Per day,
for
but still.
context sake, Taiwan has roughly the same population as Australia.
Mhm.
And, Australia is basically like 80% of the landmass of the US.
Right.
And Taiwan is, it's an island like the size of, like half the size of Tasmania or something like that.
Mhm.
Uh, don't quote me on that. I have to look at, I
Yeah.
haven't
I
played
mean,
GeoGuessr in
again,
at least a week. Come on. But and even Taiwan is actually only populated really on one coast. There's still a lot of
right.
mountainous region that's not populated, but it's this like building up, and that's something I wanted to ask you
Mm.
about Korea. I first noticed it when I was living in China, and I was very uh, disoriented by it at first. One of the things almost more so than the language or the really obvious stuff, the fact that like no one looked like me, more than any of that stuff. One of the things that really destabilized me a little bit was the way cities are planned. And this
Mm.
idea of there's not really a centralized city in the same way that there is in the West, where there isn't, I don't know if it's like it in Korea, there isn't really a downtown area where all the buildings are. The buildings are just kind of everywhere. And so I didn't know
Mm,
where the center of, I still wouldn't be able, well, I guess I could tell you where the center of Kunming is, kind of, probably where the
mm-hmm.
government buildings are, but like, it doesn't, I don't know, cities just kind of go on forever in a weird way.
Yeah, I would say more on the rural areas. That's more apparent, not
Mm,
necessarily with tall buildings or anything like that, or like a downtown, but just kind of like you really don't know where city center necessarily starts and ends. There
mm,
seems to be a buildup of more commercial areas towards the middle, I guess you want to call it.
yeah.
But a lot of places are still spread out. You still have like kind of outlet malls and outlet shops and markets and things like that scattered throughout.
Mm,
I would think, at least with Seoul, there's definitely like more downtown-ish area. It's in a very smaller, compact area, so you really can't like differentiate, yes, downtown, uptown.
right.
But and I also think that's probably due to the fact that like what was it, maybe like 60 years ago, being war torn and everything like that, having like everything just pretty much wiped clean, having to
Right.
rebuild
Yeah.
from Korean War onward. I'm bad at math. I don't know when it was, but like you know
Mm,
what I mean? Like they had to suffer through war and just reconstruction in general. So you
yeah.
can plan your cities a bit better. Um, but yeah, it's interesting here. It's more, I would say it's more compact. Like a lot of areas
Mm,
seem to be more, there's more things smushed together. Living and commercial tend to be more intertwined than it
yeah.
is. There's no real suburbs necessarily.
Right.
There's no gated communities, nothing like that. It's more just apartment blocks and then like condos. And then out here, there's more houses, but still houses that are attached to farms and other property and things like that.
Mm, mm. How have you found adapting to everyday life, communicating, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Again, pretty isolated here.
Mm,
There's not a whole lot to do outside of teaching,
mm-hmm,
so my communication is pretty much just geared to my family
mm,
and my students for the most part.
mm,
Other than that, it's mostly Twitch and then
mm,
family abroad.
mm.
So I
What
really
about
haven't had to
shopping though?
do
What about like,
that's what I have my husband do. My husband doesn't.
I
I
see.
come with, but I don't have to do the shopping.
Aha.
It's been really weird because I'm used to, being able to go out and just like, oh, I need to buy so and so or whatever.
Mm,
And I can't just do that. For one, it's a little bit far away to walk, and
mm.
two, I have to like interact with people who don't speak my language and I don't know what they're saying sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, I
And so
bet.
that just gives me so much anxiety. Like even though I know bits and pieces, I know some words, I know some phrases, like it really shouldn't be that difficult, but I have such a high anxiety of like again, not making myself look stupid in front of other people.
Mm,
That it's just like I get this stage fright of like I can't talk to anybody, even though I kind of know what I should say.
yeah.
Oh, I can't do it.
No, I know that
I've had
feeling.
panic attacks over it. I've had
Oh,
panic
oh,
attacks over it.
I believe
Yeah.
that. Um,
Yeah.
when my mum came to visit me when I was living in Southwest China, and
Mhm.
she'd never been abroad before. This is her first time abroad. She was like 45, probably 50 at the time, and so first time in 50 years leaving the land mass, leaving whatever it is we got going on down here, and
Mhm.
come straight to fucking not just China but southwest and like down Sichuan kind of
Wow.
region, and I'm a little like I don't know how she's gonna handle this, and she was great, but
Aw.
the first
Bless her.
there was something that she she was going to depend on me mostly for communication, but there was one thing she had to figure out, and that's how to buy cigarettes. And so she definitely learned how to buy ciggies in Chinese. There was no way she was going to have to depend on anyone else. She knew how to go
Oh,
down
that's
there and
fun.
talk about buying the. So yeah, that was pretty funny.
That's great. I mean, yeah, if you do have a legit purpose, I think there's a little bit of easiernesss to that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's because for me, it's a generalized life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Like having to be prepared for every situation and talking to different people
mm,
for different things, for just like, necessities and things like that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's just like I'm so overwhelmed with it. But I am starting next Tuesday,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
taking Korean classes.
Yeah, you
So
mentioned off
yeah.
earlier. That's really cool. Are you
So
excited?
I am. I'm looking forward to it. I wasn't at first because I'm like, fuck, like I have to teach on top of this, like especially if it's Tuesday, Thursday, because Thursday
Mm,
I have to teach from 2 till like 8 o'clock almost.
mm,
And so my class would be in the morning from like 10 to 1. And I'm
right.
like, this is gonna be such a long day. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to do this. This is like having two jobs and like having to use different parts of your brain all day.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna be so exhausted.
But it's going to be good for your
But
brain. I really think
it
it's
is.
great. I think it's really cool that you're
It
doing
is.
that.
I've come to terms with it, and it's just kind of like it's time. I need to do it,
Mm,
and it'll make my life easier. I can communicate with my mother-in-law and everything like that a little bit better.
yeah.
And yeah, just especially if my little Bab, my little boy, he speaks a little bit more Korean. I'm gonna
That's
be left out.
yeah, you got to learn it so you can have the secret so you
Yeah.
can when you go to non-Korean speaking countries together, you can all talk shit on people in public.
Or make sure he's not talking shit about me. That's
Yes.
kind of my interpretation of it.
Yes.
Yeah, just making sure you're not
Yes.
talking shit about me.
That's important.
Yeah.
Um
It's really funny. He babbles in Korean. It's very cute. I've noticed a distinct difference of like what he's making sound, like the way he's making sounds. I'm like, that's definitely not English sounds. Those are
yeah.
not English sounds at all.
Ah, that's
It's really
fucking
cool.
fascinating. That's really
It's
interesting.
wild. Right now, kind of not really the struggle, but just more like what I'm noticing is because we are living in Korea,
Mm,
the exposure is almost exclusively Korean. He
yeah.
goes to Korean daycare and stuff like that during the day.
Mm,
He talks to his teachers. Well, doesn't talk, but you know what I mean.
mm,
Their teachers are speaking Korean constantly. Nobody speaks English.
mhm, mm,
And then his grandmother speaks Korean to him.
mm,
Dad speaks Korean to him.
mm.
And I'm the only one who speaks English. And so I
Yes.
have noticed like I have to work 10 times as hard just
Mm,
trying to make sure he's getting certain words. Even right now,
mm,
saying goodnight to him, he'll say, ciao, ciao. And it's like goodnight in Korean. And I'm like,
mm.
can you say
Wow.
good night, please? Good night.
That's
Bye.
That's the inverse, Melissa. That's the inverse of what
Mm,
happens to kids living in the West with with like a Korean
mhm,
mum, where they
mhm,
speak it
mhm.
back at home, but that's the only place. My mate actually, he's half Thai. His mum's Thai, and that probably would have been his mum's experience with him.
Mhm.
Wow,
The
that's really
exposure
interesting.
is the biggest thing. I think whatever is the primary language of whatever country you're living in,
Mm,
that's going to be the easiest language to pick up. Everything else is just kind of like this is going to have to be the work. And
mm.
thankfully, like, I speak fluent English most of the time. I think so.
Contrary to popular opinion.
Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? But you get it. Like I have, I can at least it's not necessarily teaching him English, it's
Mm,
at least exposing him to English and
mm.
it's not in a like a school type of way, not an
Yeah.
academic way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just a general conversational thing that he's exposed to. We also watch like Cocomelon. Everybody hates Cocomelon, but like
Who's
kid loves it.
Cocomelon?
Oh, so it's a big old drama thing because of PewDiePie, and it's just this whole thing.
Wait,
Like
PewDiePie's
everybody
involved?
no, PewDiePie has hated on Cocomelon because Cocomelon has like more followers or subscribers than him.
Oh,
So he
it's a
sent
kids
all of
show,
his
right?
it's a nursery rhyme thing.
Well, of
Yeah.
course it
So
has.
it's like
They're the
a
biggest things on YouTube.
I know, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
I always kind of like mock people like, Psh, you will let your kids watch TV and stuff like that. My kid's not gonna see a screen until he's 3 years old. And then I was just like, nope, nope, nope. This is the only way to get him to stop crying right now. I need a break. I haven't slept in 3 days.
Yeah,
Here, just
no,
watch.
I
Just
hear
watch the
you.
Cocomelon.
I hear you. Feed them
You
the
don't
Cocomelon.
you think you know how to parent until you become a parent, and then it's just like, just I understand now. I understand the struggle.
That's why I never judge parents because I've not done it, but I've seen the
Mhm.
faces of my friends with two children or my friends' faces of
Mhm.
my friends with one children. I've seen the look of like they have come out of some shit that words couldn't express, and I realized
Yep.
then, you know what? I'm not going to knock it. I'm not gonna judge. Not going to say I would do any
Mhm.
differently.
Yeah, I mean, you just basically have to do what you can to
Yep.
stay sane. That's
Yep.
that's my advice is don't dive too deep into internet stuff to
Mm,
look into like what you should be eating, what they should be eating, their milestones,
mm,
like just don't do it because all you're going to do is stress yourself out and everybody else has like a very particular opinion about it and like
mm.
there's no right way to do it as long as the kid's happy, healthy, eating, not starving, has been like, sleeping well, like that's it. You've done enough. This
Yes.
is it. You
Yes.
know?
Well,
If everything's taken care of, you're fine. Just continue to do that.
that's the main job is to keep them from dying.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the main
Or pretty
job,
much
right?
just keep them from killing themselves. Yeah,
Yes,
that's the
yes.
other job.
So like, and that's actually how I view, when people speak about like, oh, their parents, what kind of the good things they did, the bad things they did. Overall, I'm alive.
Hmm.
I have all my limbs, and so that's a credit both to my mother, but also
Hmm.
like that's why I think people say they don't celebrate birthdays. Say, oh, I don't
Hmm.
celebrate birthdays. It's like, no, you stayed alive. You survived another
Yeah,
day. Sorry, another year.
yeah.
You survived another
Hmm.
year. That's good, man. Like
Yeah,
there's
it's
a
an
lot of things
accomplishment.
out there, trying to stop that from happening.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was gonna say something else. I think like maybe the one thing I took away from my childhood, because I had a pretty good childhood. Like
Mm.
as much as like I said, like, oh, you guys are the worst parents and stuff like that when I was
These parents
younger.
suck.
You guys suck. You guys don't let me do
No
anything.
one
But at the same
understands me.
time, exactly. But it also kind of in the same way, they don't understand you in certain ways. And I feel like myself kind of growing up in a very turbulent time of like social change
Mm.
and all of the cool technology that's come out and things like that, like you kind of know that you don't know a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like our generation's more humble in that sense of like you just everything's just so not sure anymore,
Mm.
that like things that do change in the future, or if my kid wants to do something or other, I'm like, yeah, you know what, go for it, why not?
Mm.
Not thinking like, oh, that's fucking weird, why would you want to do that? Like go play baseball, we don't play soccer in this house, like that kind of stuff. My parents didn't want me to play video games. They're like, why are you playing video games? And
Mm.
nobody ever was like interested in that. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe we're a bit more open-minded now, at least as parents in
Yeah.
general.
Or maybe it'll be the opposite now. Maybe this generation of parents will traumatize their children by forcing them to play video games instead of watching TikTok videos.
Yeah,
Stop watching
don't
that
do
stupid.
TikTok.
When I was your age, we used to sit down with our friends and grab a controller and play fucking games. Now look at you now. You're
Yeah.
watching stuff for 10 seconds. You can't focus. Shut up, grab the controller. Help me. Maybe.
I actually can't wait. I can't wait till he can play video games. I'm looking forward to that. I really
Yeah.
want to play some like co-op stuff with him.
Tell me about Ireland. I've never been to Ireland. Like what?
Mm,
Like you said, I think you said earlier that it was like one of the greatest experiences of your life. Of your life.
yeah.
What
Very
was it that
cool.
was so important about being in Ireland for you?
Um, just kind of it's in a way a slower pace of life sometimes.
Mm,
Like compared to the US, compared I used to live in DC, so everything
mm.
was busy, 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 go, go,
Oh
go, go,
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Like everyone's back and forth to work and home, and there's not a whole lot of like hanging out necessarily. But I found myself going out a lot more in Ireland just to
Mm,
hang out with my work friends, or like on a Friday, we'll go and hang out with our group of friends. We'll go out to a pub and just
yeah.
like drink till 2.
Fuck,
There's
I love the
also
pub culture.
a karaoke club, I guess you want to call it, or karaoke place in Chinatown area in Dublin. It's
Mm,
like this underground secret dungeon lair, you want to call it,
dope.
in this restaurant. It's very strange, very suspicious, but it's great. It's like
Mm,
the private rooms and everything like that. And so, like, yeah,
mm.
tons of like just hanging out and partying with people. And I felt myself a lot more social
Yeah, yeah.
overall. And public transportation was pretty decent. Um, People in general are pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are very, very nice and very friendly, which is a little bit different from DC. And what else? You didn't really have to drive anywhere. Everything was pretty centralized in Dublin, so it was, you didn't have to go very far for groceries or entertainment. Again, I'm speaking from somebody who had to drive 3 hours to get to work every day.
Oh, what?
Being being a 20 minute on a train. Yeah. Oh yeah, from DC. I lived in Manassas and had to drive all the way to New Carrollton, which is at least like a 2.5 hour drive if everything's fine.
Wow, that's 5 hours
Yeah.
a day. I mean, I don't need to tell you. Damn.
Hmm.
Oh my
Yep,
god.
it was a
Okay,
lot. I don't
that's a
mind
lot.
driving, but at the same time, for me, this was like my commute was like 30 minutes. And I'm like, damn, this
Mm,
is so nice. Everything's so close. And I don't know, it very clean air.
yeah.
Everything, there's very little pollution. Everything was very, very green. Lots of big parks and things like that.
Mm,
And yeah, it was pretty cool. There are a lot of downsides, I will say that. But overall, like the general experience was very, very nice. And
mm,
I do miss it a lot.
yeah.
Eventually we'll go back.
you speaking about that kind of pub culture, um,
Mhm.
that's something that really appeals to me about the UK in general. And
Mhm.
we have remnants of it in Australia. We do. It is more pubby here than, let's say, the US.
Mhm. We have just bars
Bars, and
mostly.
but I like bars. I think bars are great
Yeah,
too.
me too.
But that sort of, you get dinner at the pub, and and
Spend like hours with friends.
spend
Like that
hours
doesn't happen at a
there.
bar.
Just it's sort of like the
Mhm.
restaurant bar combo.
Yeah.
And what I really liked when I went to Scotland, and this is my only real point of reference, kind of close, is there's one on every corner, and it's sort of like
Yeah.
a social club for that
A
neighborhood.
community. Mhm.
Yeah, and you would go there, and sometimes there'd be like grannies there, not drinking beer or anything. They're just having a cup of
Mhm.
tea and reading the
Yep.
newspaper or something like that. And it felt like a really nice, yeah, bonding point for a community.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really cool in that way.
Very similar to Ireland. There was actually one, it's now a Korean restaurant slash
Mm.
bar.
Mm.
There's a whole street, Parnell Street. If you ever end up in Dublin, this is where you're gonna find the best hot pot,
All right,
some Korean
all right,
barbecue,
all right.
pho. You can get some really good Vietnamese,
Very good.
all this stuff. Yeah, and but there's this one like Korean restaurant slash bar, and it was called the Shakespeare originally. It still has
Mm.
some of the old school like 1900-ish like cobblestone bits and pieces near the
Mm.
front,
Mm.
and that place has been there for freaking ever. Like it's probably like super, super old. And the people there, when it originally was sold off to become this Korean restaurant or whatever, the
Mm.
locals still came. So you have like this really interesting mix of like Korean students, some Chinese students who are all there to learn English. Dublin is a very popular place, or Ireland in general, very
Mm.
popular place to go learn English.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't know why. I
and
can't understand them.
oh, I can tell you. It's super cheap, very, very cheap.
Ah, I was
And
kidding. I was kidding.
the
I love my Irish
okay.
friends. Yeah.
Very interesting accent sometimes. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, so like they have these older dudes who have like no interest in Korean culture, no interest in like Korean food. They're just like, I'm just here for a pint.
This
I'm
is
just
their
here for the
pub.
Guinness. This is
Yeah.
where I've been here all my life for like the last
Damn.
50 years.
That's fascinating. And
It's
that's crazy,
crazy.
actually. Yeah. Well, it's cool they kept coming. I like that.
Yeah,
I
but it was
like
just
that.
so interesting. It was like, wow, like this is your pub. I like it. It's really cool. Yeah, and just like that area is most of the people who come would be that area, or students who were just like, oh, a taste of home at least, or
Mm,
something. And also a lot of students work there as well, which
mm,
is kind of a good and bad thing, I guess.
yeah. That the downside to the pub thing, I noticed, was that sometimes I would walk into a pub and would immediately recognize that I'm the only person that didn't know everyone there. And
Oh,
that feeling of like, who's this guy? And not that people wouldn't
mm,
serve me. I never encountered any of that, but I realized like, oh, this is very much everyone here knows each other. Their families have known
mm-hmm.
each other, and I'm just
Very
some
closed kind of
asshole
pub.
who just like stumbled in and ordered a pint.
Mm,
So
yeah.
that's a little different. Like it's sort of not a feeling of being unwelcome, but I don't think you can just like breeze from all pubs to all pubs and sort of feel the
Mm-hmm.
same welcome in all of them.
Yeah. A lot of them that I've been to. I mean, like it's very again, Dublin is a very international city, metropolitan wise. Tons of immigrants and tons of tourists. Like they thrive on tourism. Like that's their
Yeah,
bread and butter.
yeah.
But there are some pubs where like if you go in, you're like, yeah, this is where the community hangs out. I was in Limerick at one point, and we had stopped because I think we were going to go buy another car or something like that, or trade in our car, something. So we had to go meet up the person. Um, but so we stopped in Limerick to use the bathroom real quick.
Mm,
And so we went into the pub and like obviously like it's the easiest place to go use a bathroom. And so I'm waiting and the guy's like, "Hey, you want a pint?" And I'm like, "No, I'm all right. It's just, we're about ready to head off." He's like, "Oh, we'll just have coffee or something like that." And like he just sat down, just like made me a coffee. It's like, "Where are you from? You're definitely not Irish. So what are you, American?" And I'm like, "Yeah, American. I've been living here for a couple of years. Oh, how you finding it?" And just so freaking chatty and just
mm,
like like we were the only people there at that point because it was kind of like first opening and things like that,
Mm,
midday, and just like super freaking friendly. And I'm like,
yeah,
man,
that's really
I hope
awesome.
all of Ireland's like this.
Those warm interactions with
Hmm.
locals. I love stuff like that when that happens. It's
Yeah.
you feel welcomed, I guess,
Hmm.
and not like the strange outsider. What are you playing on stream at the moment, and what's coming up on stream? Let us all know.
Oh, so we're still going through Silent Hill 3. I
We
don't know
didn't
how
even
far I am
speak about
through
that.
it.
Damn.
Mm-mm.
Oh well.
No, yeah. Yeah, so Silent Hill 3, we're playing through that. I'm gonna play it again tonight, well, it's not gonna be tonight because it's gonna be next week, but on Fridays and Mondays, typically it's the horror game. So whatever horror game I've got, currently Silent Hill 3.
Excellent.
Other than that, I think by the time this goes up, I'll probably be on vacation. And
That's
yeah,
right.
I'm
You
taking a break
mentioned
from
that you're
Twitch.
taking a little break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, yeah, just to recoup and everything.
Good
And
idea.
then
Good idea.
spin bike stream. Spin bike stream would be sometime soon.
Hey, yeah, dude, your chat's gonna they're gonna destroy
Working
you with
again.
that. I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they do. They do all the time. But yeah, and then after Silent Hill 3, I guess another Silent Hill game or something else. I'm kind of starting to run out of horror games. But yeah, working through Yakuza and I have a couple other things lined up that I'm thinking of, but just kind of like still in the works. Not really like a solid plan yet.
Mysterious plans for the future. I
Yeah.
like it. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. More. I don't know what I'm gonna do, and just kind of.
Shh, don't
But
tell
we'll go
them
with
that.
mysterious. We'll go with mysterious.
It's mysterious. Hey, Melissa, thank you so much for joining me, for chatting with
No
me.
worries.
It's been a pleasure. Let's do it again sometime, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I've had a blast.
Me too. And
Good stuff. Good
thank you so much for listening, everyone. Good night, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Bye bye.